This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 10 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, presented by Equestrian Life. Exclusive coverage of the world of dressage. We would like to thank our sponsors, Equestrian Life. They can be found at equestrianlife.com and Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com. This is Chris Stafford in Lexington, Kentucky.
And I'm Heather Blitz in Esbjerg, Denmark, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show presented by Equestrian Life.
Well, hi, Heather. How are you this week?
I'm doing great, Chris. Taught a clinic this weekend and just got all jazzed up about it because everyone just did so well and was so appreciative. So that always gives me more energy. And that was this weekend. And then I got back to ride Paragon today and makes me even happier.
Well,
how have you been? I know you had a busy weekend.
Yeah, we did. We had a very, very busy weekend at Young Rider Championships here in the Kentucky Horse Park, and we're going to be joined by Reese Koffler-Stanfield today, who was over there in the park, and she's going to join in that conversation. And we thought we'd take advantage of having Reese on board. Although not a young rider herself, she's been through the ranks, so not as young as she was, but nonetheless still our young person and our featured rider of the year. And so she's going to join us and share her experiences of what she saw at Young Riders this week. And then we're going to just have a general chat about youth dressage. So that's the show for this week, Heather. We thought we'd just enjoy talking about young people today and how they enjoy the sport of dressage.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because I've been out of the country long enough. I really don't know who's coming up in strong riding over there in the Young Rider. So I'm looking very forward to what Reese has to say about that.
Well, the great thing is there's so many young people, there's so much talent out there that they're going to keep you oldies on your toes, you know.
That's good for us.
But before we get to that, we just want to talk about the results out of Europe this weekend. You know, it was the World Dressage Masters at Hickstead in England this past weekend, Heather. And some great results. Not only was a record broken by Edward Gall with Moreland's Totilas, he reached 89.4. How about that for a score?
That is just extraordinary, and I have a feeling that he deserved every single point of it, too, knowing how he did at his last few competitions. So, man, I wish I could have seen that. I'm sure it'll be up on YouTube or something soon.
Right. Well, not only did, as I say, he broke the world record, he beat Parsifal and Adeline Cornelison. You know, she had a bit of time on the sidelines there with Parsifal after the World Cup finals in Vegas. But she's back in action. Wasn't quite as sweet as it might have been for her. I've heard a few comments about he just wasn't quite, where he could be. But nonetheless, she made it into second place there in the Kerr on 82.2. So at least
which is nothing to sneeze at, is it?
Nothing to sneeze at. No, I mean the commentators will always pick holes, but you get into the 80s. I think you just have you have such a high standard over there, Heather.
Yeah, it's a tough field, and it's just getting tougher and tougher and just more and more amazing to watch. So she must be at least, really back strong enough to still be quite impressive.
Well, certainly competitive, and she beat Laura Bechtensheim, the British rider, on Mistral Horace. She finished in third place on 81.8. And then Sunrise back in the picture there in fourth place, Heather.
Yeah, good for Imke. I know that she's had some downtime with Sunrise, hasn't she?
She has, yes. She's been on the sidelines for a while, so it's good to see her back on the leaderboard. And Canadian Ashley Holzer with Pop Art, that very popular combination there. They came in fifth. So I think that's a very competitive and much sought-after competition now, this World Dressage Masters, Heather. Good prize money.
Good prize money, yeah. That really draws them from all corners of the world, and as it should. I mean, there's so little prize money out there in our field of dressage, so it's great to have it. And look at the quality of competitors and horses that it takes to each competition. Well, there are 5 competitions in that series, aren't there?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, and all very nice venues. And then we're delighted to report that we had 3 Americans on the winning podium at Hickstead too. Leslie Morse got tip-top back at the top of the podium there in the special at the World Dressage Masters in Hickstead with a 71.667. But that's a good win for her, Heather, because she beat Kees Escapado with Hans-Peter Minderhood.
Yeah, good job to Leslie. I'm proud of that for sure. Escapado is a really strong competitor, lots of miles on and lots of good scores under his belt. And so that's super for Leslie to have done so well there. And then Catherine, our other American rider, Catherine Haddad on Maximus was in there too. And I think number 8 there in the special. And she was also riding Cadillac and in the CDI tour there. And so that's not the Masters Tour, but it's another Grand Prix tour. And she was first both in the Grand Prix and the special. So that's quite an accomplishment. Very proud of her. And I'm sure she's just super happy, especially after her disappointment at Aachen last month. So really congratulations to everybody there. Of course, especially our American riders.
Absolutely. Well, those of you who follow the Dressage Radio Show will know that Catherine was on the show just a few weeks ago and shared with us her expectations for the rest of the year. And so, as you say, Heather, she must be delighted with that after Aachen to get back on top of the leaderboard there with that horse. She got into 70.51 in the Grand Prix and 69.667 in the special. So a really good show for her. She's really picking her shows now.
Yeah, she's doing really well. So I can't wait to get the personal feedback from her. I'm going to call her in a few days.
There you go. I know she's a good friend of yours. You'll be calling her and getting the scoop behind that, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, terrific. Well, we are going to take a short break here for a commercial, and then we'll come back and have Reese Koffler join us and talk about the young riders. So stay tuned.
It is fantastic to have our friends at Equestrian Life as the title sponsors for the Dressage Radio Show. If you have not been to Equestrian Life yet, you need to go. In addition to being the official social community for the Horse Radio Network, it is one of the fastest growing horse communities on the internet. It is truly the Facebook for horse people. The goal of EquestrianLife.com is to bring equestrians together and to provide them with the breadth and depth of information and tools they need to learn and connect with other horse lovers who share the same passion. EquestrianLife.com is a fun, inviting website that strives to provide its members with a world-class experience that fosters the expression of all the ways people enjoy their horses and the people who are part of the horse world. EquestrianLife.com's social media platform provides users with cutting-edge applications and tools, such as people and horse profiles, social Q&A, status updates, messaging, photo uploading, groups, comments, blogs, expert high-definition videos, directories, birthday reminders, alerts, messaging, and on and on and on, in addition to their partnership with the Horse Radio Network. This community is designed by horse people for horse people and is filled with educational and entertaining video and audio all about our horses. Right on over to Equestrian Life today. Sign up for free and tell all of your friends. If you love horses, EquestrianLife.com is the place to be.
Well, again, thanks to our sponsors. We're delighted to have them on board and make this possible. And we must mention, of course, Equestrian Life, who are official social network of the Horse Radio Network. And I also want to mention that we were filming with Equestrian Life all week at the North America Junior and Young Rider Championships at the Kentucky Horse Park, and you can follow the video coverage that we did there. And we picked, Heather, a rider from each of the disciplines to follow.
And fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we just mixed it up. We had 2 boys, 2 girls, juniors, and young riders. And our featured dressage rider was Elise Carbone from Region 6, from Gig Harbor, Washington. She rode a lovely grey horse called Navarro. And so we followed her through the competition, and all her videos will be already on equestrianlife.com, and I thought we'd have her on the show in the future, Heather. Just be fun to follow her because she now has her sights set on the Britantina Cup.
Well, that'll be great fun to watch. I'm gonna check that out right away.
All right. Well, before we go any further, we're going to get Reese on the line here with us, and she's going to share her experiences of the young riders at the horse park this week. Reese.
Hi, Chris and Heather. How are you?
Hi, Reese. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great to have you on the show.
Good to hear from you, Reese.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, you had a busy week there over at the horse park. A lot of young people flying around on those golf carts.
It was crazy over there. It was a lot of fun, and I have to be a little jealous because sister and I, Lindsay, we did Young Riders between us 9 times, and none of which were in our hometown of Lexington, Kentucky. So it's nice to see that all the young people are here at the horse park and at a great venue. And I think this week, as we all know, that the horse park is undergoing a lot of construction. So everyone was very, very great with all the trucks and everything going on. I think everyone had to be very flexible, but it was a good learning experience for us all, and it will just bring even better things for the young riders next year.
And very competitive it was. I was amazed, Reese and Heather. I think you would be envious at the quality of horses for these young people.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's really changed, not to date myself too much, but it's been a few years since I did Young Riders, and I can really see the difference in the horses and the quality of the riding. It's so exciting to see that and see how we've all kind of grown and developed over the years. And I actually scribed with Lois Eukins on Thursday, so it was nice to kind of get the judges' perspective from C. And I scribed for the junior class, and I kind of came in because I figured all the people that have scribed for me over the years, I wanted to kind of give back a little bit and watch it really from the judges' perspective. And it was really, really exciting. Everybody did so well, and I know how they felt because I've been in their shoes, but the big smiles on their faces, and they came in and read their test quite well.
Yeah, and did you learn any tricks and secrets from the judges' box then?
Well, overall, I would say that the biggest thing, and I think it comes with age, and probably the riders were all better. Everyone was a little bit tight with the horses' necks. They were a little bit tight on the curb rein and just a little bit nervous. And so hopefully they got some experience. The junior ranks, it's a new, juniors the program itself did not exist when I went through. When my sister Lindsay, who's 4 years younger, she came through, but I could really see the difference as you kind of grow and you get used to going in such a big ring with all the pressure and the 5 judges and the stands. As you get a little older and a little more used to the whole environment, you learn to just lighten up a little bit and be a little bit more relaxed. That was kind of the one kind of theme that the judges talked about. But several of the top riders were very good, and that wasn't the issue.
Well, that raises a good question for Heather. When a young rider has that kind of pressure and nerves going into a new arena, such as, in the stadium at the horse park there, even though it may not be packed with people in the stands, it's still a big occasion for these young people, and there's naturally going to be some tension in their body. What would you say to them as they're going in? Where would you advise them to try and relax? Would that be in their core body? Would that be in their shoulders, in their arms? Where would you try and instill a little bit of stillness, if you will?
Well, that's a good question, Chris. And I think, each rider that's going in, if they have, tension issues, nervousness, each one of them is going to probably demonstrate that in different places in their body. It could be, a normal one might be shoulder tension, or they might get tight in their legs or their hands or something. But I think in general, to talk about the fact that they are tense is to me, a matter of getting them to get into a focus kind of that they hopefully are used to getting into, whether they're in the competition ring or not. I teach a lot about getting into an internal focus in detail, sometimes in less detail, but sometimes in more, but practicing that kind of a mindset that you can get into and kind of block the rest of the world out in regular training. I think horses should do it too. And I think if you can practice getting into that at home and getting in sort of and out of it, that you can also prompt riders at competitions to try to get into that internal focus also, where external things can vanish as much as possible. And, maybe then tension results like tight shoulders or tight legs or pulling on the reins or whatever happens, not breathing or something. Hopefully those kind of things can go away if you just can make your external world go away too. It's kind of what I'd try to go for.
Okay. Well, I think this is a topic of greater interest, for maybe a longer session one day. But I do want to pick it up again, Heather, because there are so many aspects of that. I think that could help young people as they prepare for the bigger occasions as they go through their career.
Certainly.
But to mention the juniors, Reese, I know you were there for the juniors, and the team gold medal went to Ontario, Canada. Then the Region 3 won the silver medal, and the bronze medal went to Region 1. Were there any rides there that really caught your eye?
Well, I had a rider from Region 1. Actually, it was a horse that I trained as a young horse, and it was really fun to see him in the big ring. And he was actually the first horse of the day, and his name is Kavari, and it was really great to see him in the big ring, and it really made me smile, remembering how far he's come from being a 4-year-old and 5-year-old in my barn to being a big boy in the arena. So that was really exciting.
That's good. And
really, watching all the riders, really everyone came in, and it was really fun to see them as they settled into the test and got to going through the test. They did really well.
And Nicole Del Giorno and Lamborghini were the gold medalists in the freestyle, and that was another medal to add to the team bronze that she won. And she finished ahead of Megan Lane and Caravella. They won the silver medal. And behind them was Heather Otts and Vera Kai. Did you know any of those medalists at all, Reese?
I have seen a few of those medalists. The gold medalist, she had ridden. I think she went to Gladstone. I can't remember if it was Florida or Gladstone. So it was fun to see a bunch of the girls. They had kind of followed the whole path of. I met them at the West CDI in March, and then they again went to Gladstone in New Jersey, and in the end of June, and then they came here to Kentucky. So it's fun to see them develop from the West CDI going into the big ring there, into the big ring at Gladstone, which is a whole different atmosphere, and then here in Kentucky in the brand new stadium. So I think as they went through, they really got more educated, and you could see them settling into the test a lot better. And that was fun to see them develop through those different venues.
Well, in the young riders, it was Region 7 that picked up the gold medal there. They beat Region 2 into second place, and the bronze medal went to Region 3. And the individuals, Cassandra Bateau and GP Raymaster, they took gold there. So they had a very good week, in fact. So were there any of those that you know about and you've watched at all?
I do know Cassie. I rode on the Region 2 team 4 times, and so I always kind of root a little bit for the Region 2 team for sure, for my home team. So I was really excited for them to win the silver medal. And I've seen Cassie. She's from Chicago. So I have seen her grow up from the time she rode juniors into the top of the young rider division. So it's been a really fun adventure to watch her grow up and to see her on that big stallion. He's beautiful, and she just does a phenomenal job with him. So I was keeping my eye and kind of rooting for Region 2, and very excited. And Region 7, the California region, and Region 2, we always seem to kind of flip back and forth with the medals. So I was excited to see that they were on top as well. So that was a really fun thing for us, and really excited for Cassie.
Some friendly rivalry there, huh?
Yes, exactly. I'm sure if you talked from someone from California, they would say the same thing, just in reverse.
And Heather, which region were you in when you were here at home?
Well, I was in Colorado when I started riding in dressage, and I think that's Region 5, isn't it? And then when I moved from there to Louisiana, which is Region 9. So, but I never did young riders. It was not something, I wasn't at that level of competition when I was that age. So I didn't get to go through all of what these young riders are going through. And I don't know how that would change where I am now as a 40-year-old in my life. But I'm sure it would have been really beneficial and helpful and amazing experience. Reese, I was wondering if you get a feel for what the sportsmanship is like at these competitions and between regions, and do you feel like it's fairly friendly and supportive of each other, or is it a little competitive and cutthroat? Sort of, what is it like between these young riders?
Well, when we did it, we were always a great team, and certainly the team competition day, it's a little cutthroat, maybe more than it would be, in the other the senior ranks. But really, after the team competition, what's fun about Young Riders is there are a lot of social events, and there are ice cream parties and golf cart races and decorating your stalls, and so there's a lot of kind of fun social events. So after the one team day, I think people really lighten up and have great friends, and that is one thing that I have found kind of going through the young rider ranks. And then I kind of missed the Brentina Cup, actually, the young adult Grand Prix. They changed the age right after I aged out, so it's now 28, and I'm 29 now, so I missed it by a year. But the friendships that I've made through the program has been the most beneficial thing for me. I have friends now. I feel comfortable calling, fellow riders in California or Colorado, Kansas, and we know each other from the program. And as young professionals, that ability to network and know people that you meet at Young Riders really follows you through your career. And that's been, for me, the most beneficial, or one of the most beneficial things that have happened through the program is just the friendships and the networking that I've been able to make. So maybe on the day it's a little cutthroat, but really in the end, it's been a great part of and very helpful in my business and career.
I think that's really important and super that they make sure that at that age that everyone is still really having a good time and learning how to kind of cut loose a little bit and let some of the pressure down. Because if it all becomes too serious at too young of an age, I think then you could miss out on, like you said, the part where what you enjoy most is what you get out of it in your life in general. And
exactly.
I could imagine, being really competitive at an earlier age could do really great things, and it can also maybe make you too serious too soon, forget to laugh, forget to take it all in stride, to forget to keep it all just realistic. So I think that's great that they make sure that there's still fun activities and reasons for everybody to get together and be able to talk without a competitive situation. So that's a great idea for them.
Well, it reminds me of some years ago. I know many of you will remember Lucinda Green, a well-known event rider, very successful event rider right at the top level. And she said years ago to young people, we must never forget that we do it for fun.
And exactly.
I think that element is ever present at young riders. And coming away from this competition, having spent a week there filming them and following the 4 riders that we did, I think the Young Riders competition is going to be now one of my favorite, if not my favorite, competition of all time. And I've covered pretty much all of them, right up to Olympics. And this is just so much fun. And we talked to Lindsay Jordan. I'm sure you know Reese, Lindsay Jordan, the reiner from Georgetown.
Yes.
Yeah, local girl here. And we spent a few minutes with her talking about all the non-competitive activities that you riders get up to at Young Riders. And they had, Heather, you would love this, they had a list that they were given in their package, because I wondered if this came from the Chef de Keeps, to just try and engender the team camaraderie and team spirit and all that. But no, it came in the show packet. It was a list of, I don't know how many she said, there was so many you couldn't get through, all these ideas like a scavenger hunt. And
oh, wow.
and it was so much fun. They had to do all kinds of things. Like they had to surprise their chef to keep and tip water over him. They had to obviously decorate the golf cart. And Lindsay's golf cart, she had on the front of it free hugs. And so as they were driving around, people would stop them. And if there were, all of the team members on the cart, they had a lot of fun with it. But she was saying she's a tad shy, and so it wasn't as easy for her, especially if she was on the golf cart on her own. But they got up to all kinds of things, which I think speaks to your point, you guys, about not taking yourself too seriously at that young age, and not getting too intense about the sport.
Yeah, that's not healthy for that age or even adult age. It always needs to be fun, and it always needs to be something you can laugh at the end of the day.
Exactly. I have to say, as a little bit older and looking back on the whole event, it changes your perspective a little bit from the time that we were preparing for Young Riders to now. And that is, it really do remember to laugh and have a good time. And it seems at the moment as is kind of the most important thing in the world. And I think as you get older, you learn, your perspective changes a little bit. So definitely have a good time, meet great people, and keep in touch with them.
Yeah, good lesson.
Lots of lessons, I think, to come out of this competition, guys, and it really speaks to youth and the broader subject of youth in dressage. And I like to just have a little exchange about this, because when they go from young riders, I mean, if you were lucky and you started in Pony Club, and I was going to ask you, Reese, did you go through Pony Club?
I did not, actually. I can't jump a stick. So in my days, you had to jump to get a rating, and everyone said, "Well, you can just fudge it." And no, I cannot jump a horse. Really, I can do cavalettes, but that's about it. So I did not do Pony Club, only for my lack of jumping talent.
And for those riders that went through Pony Club and then got into Young Riders and then onwards and upwards, what the youth program in this country, do you think it is all encompassing?
I think it is. I think it's really an amazing program, and from Pony Club to juniors to Young Riders, on into the young adult graduate program and the Brentina Cup. If you really go through those programs, I didn't get to go through all of them, but I went through several of them, and I really feel like it prepared me on so many levels to be a high-performance rider and kind of be more prepared for kind of the things that happen once you get into the high level of sport. And without having just my experiences going into the big rings, the pressure, kind of learning what it's like to go through a tough week of competition in a qualifying season, I would not be the same rider that I am today. And I think it's really an amazing way and program. And for riders, there's so many trainers and people that want to help and want to be a part of the rider's career, from the time that they're sitting on ponies at Pony Club to the time that you graduate all the programs and they become lifelong kind of advisors and friends. And I saw some great trainers. I saw Jeremy Steinbrenner from California. He actually won Young Riders, and we were sitting in the tent joking on how we've grown up and how life has changed now that we're the trainers of the group. And George Williams and Kathy Morelli. So a lot of trainers come to Young Riders and are excited to help all the riders from little siblings to parents and helping them get through and really guiding all the young riders.
Well, actually, that you mentioned Jeremy. He was the chef de keep, of course, for Elise Carbone from Gig Harbor, Washington. She was our featured rider on Equestrian Life. And so I caught up with Jeremy and talked about that. So there's an interview there on equestrianlife.com with Jeremy. And it's interesting you mentioned all the different chef d'équipes, and that I think applies to all the disciplines. And you could go through the eventers, and you'd find Mike Huber and John Williams, and a lot of the top riders there. Some of them still competing. But, having gone through it themselves, they really enjoy the opportunity to come back and share their knowledge and experience with young riders.
Exactly. And I think everyone's willing and happy to do it and want to be a part of it.
So, Reese, when you were going through the program, in your peers that you remember and stay in touch with, do you think most of them are going on to a career like you are? Are they sticking with it? Are they becoming young professionals like you, or have some of them that gone other directions? What are you seeing with them?
I think it's kind of a split, actually. I think some riders have grown up now and are married and have a family, and then other riders are still riding, maybe not professionally. Maybe they went on to university and have a job kind of not in the horse arena. And then several of them, we stay in touch, and we're great friends. And, for example, my sister is in a career now in my father's office. She's changing her career and doing horses more as a hobby. I'm still friends with the Poulin sisters. We were both a group of sisters that went through. So, being friends and seeing the Poulins. And my friend Heidi Basler and we talk literally on a weekly basis. And these are all people that I met through the program, and some are professional riders, some are professional riders and getting master's degrees. And my sister, is an amazing rider, and she's working really hard on her certification. So I think it's really split, but we all have such a common bond and a common interest in the horses that even if someone is out of the horses, maybe in respect of being a professional, it's still an amazing thing that we share.
Well, I just, I look forward to, or really hope that most of them do go on and become professionals if they gain so much experience and valuable knowledge and, things that they can give on to the next generation that comes up. And we also have to kind of think about where our next trainers and instructors are going to come from too. And we have to keep renewing that supply as well as, competitors and riders. But you got to think that these riders have to be the ones that also fill the shoes for trainers and educators that retire and we need to resupply that also. So I'm really hoping that if they do go to university and educate themselves in other ways, that they come back to it and give what they've gotten back to riders that are coming up behind them. That's just want it to continue and kind of keep renewing.
Absolutely. And I think it really is. And just being able to look back now at the next generation, kind of the next group that's coming up has been really fun to watch, for sure.
And I think what's inspirational in this country, Heather, you will appreciate this from a European perspective, is the quality of dressage, the standard now that we've raised. It wasn't that many years ago that we'd be hard pressed to put together a competitive senior team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with that too. It was non-existent when I was 17, 18 in my area. Of course, I was in Kansas, so it wasn't, it still isn't, the most intense dressage competition. But when I was there, it was really non-existent. And I'm not that old, so it's not that long ago. But, it has really grown a lot in a pretty quick time. How much quality, both in horses and riding. I think definitely agree with you on that.
Well, I want to just segue here nicely into the horse and the quality of the horses. What really impressed me was the quality of young horses, not just the old school masters that and there were some riders in all the disciplines that had acquired an old school master that had been brought up through the ranks, and I think that's a wonderful way to get into to advance your career as a young person. And there were a few of those, But there were also horses that had been with their rider a little bit longer, and they had actually trained them themselves. But the overall quality, Reese, was just amazing.
It is, and really, in the probably, it's been about 6 or 7 years since my sister did Young Riders. The quality is so much better, and I really was amazed sitting in the judges' booth, even with the juniors. The horses that have come through now, they're amazing. I mean, the horses that are kind of now in the junior ranks would have been kind of the quality of horses when I did Young Riders that were kind of in the Young Rider ranks, so it's really just stepped it up a notch, and the Young Rider horses are phenomenal. And I agree. When my sister and I went through, actually, I went when I was 16 and 17 on kind of the older schoolmaster. I kind of went through the ranks and did it with him. And same thing happened with my sister. She had a wonderful old schoolmaster, and then I took a couple years off, and I went to Germany with my horse Yuri and trained him from first level. And then when I was 20 and 21, I rode him in the Young Riders. So it was a horse that I had trained from a lower level. So it was a great experience to have had the experience on the schoolmaster, and then being able to train my horse and know what the expectation was for him as a Young Rider horse. So I was able to kind of have that experience, and Young Riders, I think, is 5 years. Is it 5 or 6 years, and from 16 to 21. So you have a lot of time to grow, and I think you really see that from the 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds on into the older 21-year-olds. Your development really changes through that time, and it's a neat thing to watch develop.
And that actually raises the question I was going to ask both of you. In terms of training, when you're coming into juniors and you're making your way then into Young Riders and on through your career, do you think it's possibly necessary that you need to move with the level of trainer that you have? I mean, one trainer might be good at the lower levels but can't quite take you up through the ranks, and while you might have started with somebody and you have a loyalty to them, it might be a hard decision to think, okay, well, I've really outgrown you now. I need to find someone who can take me up to the next level. How do you, when you both train, how do you find that that evolves naturally?
You want to answer that one, Reese?
Sure. I have had that happen. I have had that happen myself, and it is a hard, sticky kind of situation. And as I went through, your needs kind of do change from the time that you're 14 to the time that you're 21, and then I think it also does that as you go into the Grand Prix ranks or the Brentina Cup and then the Grand Prix. And it's hard, and I think as my own as an instructor, I really try to be sensitive to that, be sensitive to all my students' needs. I would always say that keeping the lines of communication open is a very important thing to do. And I think, and Heather, I think you'll probably think the same. And I provide a service just like any other professional, and I want to provide the best service and the best thing that I can do for someone. But if I can't provide that service, I would love to help that person get on to where they want to go. I'm lucky that I can train through Grand Prix level, and I've had the experience to do that. But I think a lot of trainers don't. But that doesn't limit it doesn't mean they're a bad instructor. It just means that there are times in your career where you need to move on. And I always think of doing that with open communication and trying to not hurt the person's feelings, but just being really open and honest. And hopefully they'll take that as helping you find that next level of instructor.
Yeah, you're right, Reese, and I think really good and confident instructors don't make their students feel like there would be a huge disappointment if they did need to switch, just change gears a little bit, get with somebody else. Maybe it's just a matter of clicking with a certain style. I think there's plenty of trainers that have complete knowledge to get all the way to a championship at Grand Prix, but still might not have a method or a teaching style that works for a particular student. And I try really not to make my students feel like I would be disappointed if they left, but that I would encourage them to do what they need to do to get where they want to get. And, I know in my career that, I have probably more students than I could get to per day, and I have to make sure that I don't overdo it because there's a lot of students looking for a lot of information. So if one student has to move on, there's another one that'll come for information. And I could recommend to anyone listening that if you feel like you're told not to look elsewhere, that might be a little bit of a red flag, and that I think you should be encouraged to keep your eyes open for the world of dressage, not just your local environment of dressage, but look throughout the world what's happening and keep checking in with what's going on in your small world by, I think, comparing it to what's going on in the globe. And the more you do that, I think the more you will really stay going in a direction that is probably the best for you if you just keep your eyes open. And I know a number of trainers, whether personally or just from pretty far away, that do tell their students that they are not allowed to go anywhere else. And it's almost a rule. And I don't think that's right. And the student should be the one that they are number one in their life, and they should have their own rules and rights to do what they want to do. So, I would just watch out for that kind of a training situation if it's happening to anyone listening, that you think about that and just you use your own decisions. If you think it's right, if you don't think it's right, if it's not, search for what you want. There's a lot of information out there, and if you keep looking, you'll find what clicks with you, and you've got to do it. Life, dressage, especially in life and horses' lives, too short to waste time and or to be unfair to either one. So,
well, of course, people change coaches in all sports, don't they?
Exactly.
I suppose so.
Mm. Yeah. And I think as a junior and as a young person before, as kind of a newly married person and starting a business here in Lexington, my opportunity to go away for training, it gets more difficult as you get older. And I think as from, I was able from 16 to 21 and 23, I went all over the world. I really went to the trainer. I didn't just go to my trainer in my town. I lived in Pennsylvania for a few summers. I lived in North Carolina. I went to Germany twice. You have the ability, if you'll work hard, I'm not going to say it's easy to go and work for someone, and there are a lot of bumps in the road. But you have the ability to do that and take your horse. And I know Heather who probably takes people and I take people and I really want my young people to work hard, but we'll laugh and we'll have a good time and it'll be a great adventure that we'll be on together. And you learn a lot about horse care. I learned a lot of how maybe I wouldn't run a business and a lot of how I would. So I think it's really the time in your life that you can do that. And it doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. You work hard, and you can work. So that's always my advice to people too. Is maybe a small town in the middle of the country that's not a lot of dressage. If you really go to shows and you find a trainer that you like, or you see nationally or internationally somebody you want to work for, you can make that happen.
Well, I can certainly attest to that, Reese. My career was all over the world, literally, and I was privileged to train with some of the best people in the 3 Olympic disciplines, some of the top riders, Olympians, and really well-known trainers who gave me such a different perspective of all aspects of the horse, not just the discipline and actual riding and training, but the management and everything that goes along with that. And I certainly had no privilege. I had to work my way through my career, and there was no money to back me. But I think the message here, and is what you're saying, Reese, is you can, as a young person, as youth coming into the sport, you can make your way very successfully if you have the determination and the ambition.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a really positive note to round up this chit-chat today, girls. I think it's been a lot of fun, Reese, having you on and getting your perspective on youth in dressage and the young riders. And I think we're going to have more of these kinds of conversations on the Dressage Radio Show. So thanks again for joining us and spending this time. And good luck with whatever you're doing next. We're going to catch up, and we keep talking about having lunch, and I think we better do that, Reese.
That sounds great. And thanks for having me. And Heather, good luck with everything. And I'll see you soon, Chris.
Thanks, Reese.
Thank you so much, Reese.
Okay.
Take care. Okay. Well, we're going to take a small break here now after that, Heather, and hear from our sponsors before we get into our listeners' emails.
Well, if you're a regular listener to the show, you know we talk a lot about Kentucky Performance Products, and that's because they are a name you can trust to give you the most value for your supplement money. Kentucky Performance Products offers supplements designed to target specific problems and are made with high-quality ingredients included at effective levels. The company's supplements are intended to complement, not compete, with your dressage horse's current feeding program, guarding against over-supplementation, and each product is backed by sound research and a money-back satisfaction guarantee. And today we'd like to talk to you about Nalox, the original equine antacid. It's recommended by veterinarians and leading horsemen as a way of maintaining a healthy stomach, which reduces the risk of ulcers. Nalox can be given daily to horses exposed to stressful conditions or as needed when shipping, competing, or during stall confinement. You know, you can learn about Nalox and all the products at Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, that was a lot of fun talking to Reese, wasn't it, Heather? You know, she really does have that youthful insight to the sport.
She does. She's got such a bubbly personality. She's a great girl, and it's nice to hear from someone who's just been through it recently, too, that she's close enough, when she went through it, that she can really add a lot of perspective for us. She's a blast.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be having Reese on a lot more times in the future. But we have a listener's email to read this week, Heather. A great email from a listener in Sweden, actually, just down the road from you. And
my neighbor.
Yeah, neighbor. Anne Erikila, and Anne, I hope I've pronounced your last name right, Erikila. She, first of all, wants to tell us that we have a fantastic radio show. She really loves it. So thank you very much, Anne, for that. And she has a training question for you, Heather. How do you train a horse that's very spooky? Some horses may be quiet and working great at home, but are spooky at new places. How does that affect the judges' scores if a horse spooks in the show arena? Do you advise to go to shows just to train and just don't bother about the low points one gets, or do you think it's better to train the horse to a really high level before entering shows? She says she's very competitive and wants to win every time. So that's great. We'd like to hear that, Anne. But it's quite impossible if you just go to a show to train the horse, and that's what I think she's tackling right now, is getting over that spookiness and being able to be competitive. So what's your thoughts on that, Heather?
Well, if we start at the beginning of our questions, if you how to train a horse that's very spooky, we got to decide why it's spooky. Of course, you always have to start with, if there's a chance that the horse is feeling some kind of pain in their body, and sometimes the pain can be a shooting pain that can cause a horse to spook, whereas a dull pain might not cause that, but you might get that on something, where it's a shooting pain of some sort. So first thing is you probably got to check out that your saddle fits, the horse's teeth are right, that, maybe go through with a chiropractor or a veterinarian, something like that, just to make sure there's no pain causing the spookiness. On the other hand, spookiness is completely natural to horses because they're prey animals by nature. And if they didn't keep that kind of reactivity and that kind of adrenaline shooting through their body when something was scary, they probably wouldn't survive in the wild. So it's normal for them to spook. The fact that she says some horses, and maybe she's talking about hers, are quiet working at home, but then they're spooky at new places. The horse probably is just on a really normal level spooky. Maybe in this case, not from a pain, because that would probably be happening at home. The fact that it's working quiet at home, but then new places of spookiness comes out, makes me think that that particular kind of problem needs more. That horse needs to have more something that draws his attention during the work, so that when he is in a new situation where there's something on the fence or an umbrella or a dog or whatever it is, that if the horse's attention goes out externally, that something that the rider can do communicating between the rider and the horse can draw the horse's attention back in. So I think in training then, she says the horse works quietly and, relaxed. And that's, of course, very nice. And it's a quality we have to have, relaxation in our horses. I might suggest that she does things that are more challenging at home to find out, what challenges the horse and what sort of things get the horse to really think about her, really think about his own body. What he has to do to stay in balance during some more difficult movements, what he has to do with his own body to get more quickly reactive, to change directions, to be ready for the next thing she asks for. That kind of thing can really get the horse internal and not thinking so much about what's happening in the corners of the arena or on the fence or the umbrella. So I would kind of suggest working differently at home. Almost more than going out to where the spooky things are and then having to deal with it then. I think the work has to be done at home first to say, I know when my horse is really focusing internally at home. This is also my training tip of the day, and it's interesting that this listener email came in on the same day that I was having a student today work on the same thing in her lesson. And, it's important to, challenge your horses enough to know what's happening in their brain. And a lot of riders are thinking what's happening physically in the horse. Of course, you have to think about that too. But really, what is happening in the horse's brain? What is he thinking? If he had a little bubble over his head like they have in a comic book, and the character's words are in that bubble, if you imagine one over your horse's head, what are the words in there? Imagine what he's thinking. Imagine what's coming out if he could talk. And that's really telling sometimes. And a really quiet, relaxed, supple horse might be really super, but then maybe not enough to say, well, if something jumped out of the door right now, would I be able to gain his attention again really quickly? Do I have the skills? Have we repeated that practice enough to say, I can get your attention when I want it? Horses will spook. They do it by nature. You can't get upset with them for it. You just have to know how to draw them back to you. So then her next question was, how does it affect the judges' scores? Well, it's definitely going to take your scores down. For that particular movement where the horse does make the error, jumping away or even just, hollowing his back and raising his head, is definitely going to lower your score because you're going to lose connection, you're going to lose rhythm, you're going to lose things that are important to get your scores. And then also in the collective marks, the submission of the horse, then that's at times 3, I think it is now, at least at times 2. So your scores will greatly suffer for that. Hopefully you can make it up in other parts of your test if it happens. And then let's see, do you advise to go to shows and train and just don't bother about the low points? Well, like I said earlier, I would advise more that you change your training at home before you get to the show where the stress is doubled by the new environment. Learn how to get your horse's attention by more challenging things at home and know what he's thinking. Know that you have his attention and not just half of it because it's so easy for him that he can daydream in the other half of his brain. You've got to have him completely. So then when you go to a competitive situation or a distracting situation, you've already practiced how to keep him. So I would do that work at home, and then I would go out. You still might have moments where you get a spook here and there, but it's testing your training at home to be out in the show and see how he does then when things are scary. So is that training to a high level before entering shows? I think so. A level, going up the levels to me is a matter of how much, first of all, weight you get to move the horse back on the hind legs, and how much focus and attention and work ethic you have. So that is sort of a definition of being at a higher level of trainings. So, I hope I can hear back from Anna when she maybe listens to that advice and works on that a bit, and we can see if that helps her out with a spooky horse. And I think that if I can just go right from that into the training tip of the day or of the week, it's also to do with, training spooky horses or just horses that are different from one environment to the next. And again, making sure that there's no pain causing the spookiness, because horses can spook out of evasion, or if work starts to get hard, they can They can react sometimes with spookiness. It's not an unusual problem. And as long as you're pretty sure, very sure, that it's not caused by anything health related, then you have to say, is it happening on a regular basis, or is it just once in a while? And I think if it's just once in a while, there of course could be quirky things and legitimate reasons for horses to spook. It is a natural reaction. It's how they save themselves in nature. That as much as possible, if it's just a fluke thing and every now and then they spook, you just keep riding with as little reaction to it as possible. And if it's happening on a more regular basis and it's quite a problem, it's really stumping you, then I like to consider, if the horse spooks, what is the rider's response? And some of the common things are, one of the most common things is that the rider responds with fear, because if the horse spooks, of course, they might get off balance, the rider might get off balance, and that causes a fear reaction in a lot of riders. Or the rider might think the horse then takes further advantage of the moment and then does something dangerous. Or just on a low level, if the rider reacts with fear and isn't able to lower the fear pretty quickly, of course the horse is going to pick up on the fear response from the rider. And a horse should be thinking that the rider is their fearless leader, or the leader of the herd, and whatever the leader of the herd does, the rest of the herd does. So if the rider reacts in fear, the horse is going to learn to also react in fear. And I see this pretty often, actually. That tends to be the cause. And then with those kind of situations, you can often see another rider, maybe with a less fear, sort of innately less fear, get on the same horse, and all of a sudden the horse doesn't spook. That is sort of often the case. That the horse is really just reading off of the rider's reaction to also tense up. And where riders tense up can be really subtle. It can be the rider holds their breath, they can gasp, they can clench the hand, they can grip with the legs, they can just think, oh no, what's going to happen, and lose the mental authority that I know what will happen and we will go on. The horse reads those things, and there's subtle things, and the horses can really pick them up. So really getting to the bottom of if the rider reacts with fear is important. And also then next thing is, does the rider react in anger, which normally follows fear. And that can be very unfair to the horse. We shouldn't punish our horses for spooking. There's no sense in doing that. It only creates, if the spook is like creating a ripple in the water, then reacting with anger only creates more ripples in the water, and then you have more evasions and more problems to deal with. So anger is just nowhere near appropriate, although a lot of riders have trouble avoiding it because it often follows fear. Horses spook by nature. They should be confidently dealt with, and the rider should stay calm and then assert themselves in the way that they want the horse to react after that. Some spooking then causes riders to just avoid situations, and then in that sense the horse has sort of been in control. If they spook in a certain corner, the rider just might not ever go down there again. And then the horse has essentially said, well, rider, we just work on the other end of the arena. And that can go on. The horse can get pretty clever and say, now I know that I can determine what we do if I spook here, if I spook there. And maybe they don't think about it in such human terms, but I think it does happen when the rider can respond with avoidance, and then spooking can become growing into a bigger and bigger problem. Which is also sort of the same as the rider compromising on rideability. Maybe if the horse has to take a bit more balance on a half halt in a certain situation, and then the horse responds with something evasive that he realizes he's gotten away from the rider, and then he spooks, then the rider says, oh, well, I'll never ask for that half halt again. So compromises and avoidances are tricky too. Of course, you don't want to just put on a brave hat that's not honestly brave in the rider and just get into something that you shouldn't. But, progressing through or proceeding through something that is a spooky situation in a way that you stay very mental about it, you stay very calm about it, really try to process what exactly is happening, give the horse confidence in as many situations as you can, that if the horse wants to flee and run away, that you won't. That you'll stay sitting on him, you'll stay calm and confident that you know what you want him to do next. As if you have a plan, then more than likely he will learn to also trust that you have a plan, and he will continue to let you be the leader that he needs you to be. So, it always sounds easier in words than it is to do, but it is something that should be in riders' heads when they're dealing with a spooky horse. And that is pretty much, I think, we're wrapping up this training tip of the week. Although we could go on into subcategories of it. I think that's that's a good wrap on basic training spooky horses kind of theory.
Well, that was very, very insightful, Heather. I certainly enjoyed it. And I think one of the things we should add, with riders, when you say the word fear, they may not always be honest that they're about their fear, that it may be a lack of confidence, it may be a very subtle element. They may see fear as a four-letter word, but it can be so subtle that something alerts you, alarms you, and you're not as confident as you could be and as relaxed as you could be. So while they might be in denial that, oh gosh, I'm not fearful, I'm not fearful of my horse, and I think there may be some subtleties to that creep in, and maybe the rider would deny that for just for their own self-confidence.
You're totally right, and it's not always just an ego thing. I mean, sometimes it's just an awareness thing. I mean, fear can be at a level of simply in your mind going, "Uh-oh, what's going to happen?" That right there, the horse can, I know they can read. Just saying, I don't know what's going to happen. That already is not being a confident leader. So if your horse is acting, and maybe you do know something is going to happen, you have to know, well, even if that happens, we're still going to do this and this and this. And so just saying, I don't know what's going to happen, can right there be a little sign to the horse of fear. It doesn't have to be something as obvious as really clenching or tightening or gasping. It can be very subtle. Just what's in your head. Yes. Horses are sensitive.
Yeah, they sure are. Well, that was really, really insightful, Heather. And we're loving your tips, and I think we're getting good reader response here, audience response. And so keep those questions coming to Heather. She loves to get those questions, don't you, Heather?
Well, I do. And I mean, I usually get inspired by my own writing and teaching, for these weekly tips, but it does help to also have listener emails. And so then I know more and more about what our listeners are needing to hear and, what they're struggling with in their own writing. And that makes it even more exciting for me because I want to give you who are listening what you want to hear. So keep them coming.
All right. Well, thank you, Heather. Well, we're just about plain running out of time this week, Heather. So we want to remind everybody that they can follow the show notes on dressageradio.com. And remember to go to equestrianlife.com and join the social network there, which is the official social network of the Horse Radio Network. And also, as I mentioned earlier, you can follow the videos from Young Riders Championships, again on equestrianlife.com. If you want to leave a message for us on our voicemail, go to our website and call 270-803-0025. You can also email either Heather or myself. That's Heather at horseradionetwork.com or Chris at horseradionetwork.com. Don't forget to visit our fan page on Facebook as well, and to follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. Again, you can always go to Heather's blogs because Heather will keep you up to date on what's happening in her world at heatherblitz.info. And you have a clinic coming up, Heather?
I do. I have 5, actually. They're all on one tour in the States starting on August 20th. And you can find those on my website under heatherblitz.info under my clinic's schedule page. And come by and audit those. And I think they may be full by now, but you can definitely come by and audit and get lots of information from those. So hope to see you there.
Wonderful. Thanks, Heather. Well, we'll talk a bit more about those clinics as we approach them and obviously get an account from you afterwards as to how they went. Well, we want to thank again our sponsors, equestrianlife.com and Kentucky Performance Products. They can be found at kppusa.com. So that wraps it up for this week, Heather. So until we meet again next week.
Well, good luck and mind your riding.